Women are stepping into their power more and more, and you all know I am here for it. But I also believe that an important conversation to have in the midst of all of this girl power is how to involve our significant others and have them feel a part of our vision and equally empowered in the process. There's no better person to help me tackle this topic than the OG Powerhouse man himself, my husband Elliot. Today we're going to answer questions straight from you, our girl gang, about how to navigate relationships while pursuing our big dreams. I have a feeling this one's going to be good. Welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited about our topic today. I have literally my favorite person in the whole world. I say one of my favorite people a lot, but today I have my actual favorite person in the whole world, who I also happen to be married to. But before we dive in, I want to remind you, we are getting close, T-minus just a few weeks until Powerhouse Women 2019. And I know that at this point, a lot of you are probably sitting on the fence wondering, I don't know, can I make the time work? Can I make the investment in myself? And if you're on the fence, I want you to consider this your sign that you should absolutely be there and join us. It only happens once a year, and I know firsthand the magic that is going to take place in that room on September 7th when we are all together. So if you don't already have a ticket, you can register today at powerhousewomen.co/event. And of course, I'll link all of that in the show notes for you. But without further ado, look at how handsome my co-host is today.
Here we go. Butter me up. I like it.
I know how to get what I want. So if I need to butter you up, I will do it. It's funny. I wanted to do this topic for a while, and we actually get asked this quite a bit. I mean, just in casual conversations. I guess we don't have that many friends, but I was going to say by our many friends. But just this whole topic of girl power, but how do you navigate that in the context of a relationship? And I think that's whether you're married to a man or a woman, but how do you have your partner feel involved and actually get on board with your vision? Because I always like to say, one of my biggest unfair advantages, meaning like, I get that this isn't the case for everyone, but it is an unfair advantage that I have such a supportive spouse in my corner.
Aww.
And you really do make me better. So there you go. There's your compliment for the day. You're welcome. But that is not to say that our life is Instagram perfect. I think it's a good opportunity to remind people that even though things look one way on the surface, yes, we still fight. We still struggle. We are not always our best selves, but we don't put that out there on the internet, which is probably a good thing.
This is true.
So I feel like it might be good since people haven't actually met you. And although we're doing this as a solo episode, I'm not doing this as one of my interview episodes. It might be good to have people get to know you a little bit. So how long have you been married to Lindsey? Elliot?
8 years.
8 years. See, it's funny how we both answer that question differently. I'm like, almost 9 years.
That is true, but you never know what could happen, folks.
Exactly. Keeping me humble. I like it. I see your style. And what's interesting about our relationship is we met and got married while we were both still working in corporate America. So those of you who have listened to episode 1 and have heard my background in carpet sales, guess what, folks? That is actually where Elliot and I met. We both sold carpet.
Yes.
It was very romantic.
Anybody needing flooring out there, this is the podcast to listen to.
We are no help, truly. But what's interesting about that is you really have gotten to watch the whole journey from first waking up to wanting to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you've always known I was like annoyingly ambitious, but you've really gotten to watch the whole thing unfold. So what has that been like from your perspective?
What a roller coaster ride. I mean, I've always believed in you immensely, and I knew that you had a special drive to get out there and make a difference in the world. Not many people wake up every morning and read something on a piece of paper and manifest how much they want to give back every single day. And I knew that to be a part of your life and to be a contribution to your life, I needed to foster that. So it's been a fun journey to be a part of that. It's been not always easy. You're a lot.
This is true. This is very true.
And I am a lot. So just like every couple, we have had our struggles and we've grown a lot together. So
yeah.
But it's been a fun ride, and it's exciting to see the impact you're making today. And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of this.
Well,
because I am a part of this. I'm security, if you guys don't know.
Yeah. If you haven't seen, gosh, okay, that's a whole other story, and I wanted to tell it, so this is the perfect setup. But part of, I think, being able to involve you in what we're doing as especially Powerhouse Women grows is looking for ways to incorporate your personality, which I always joke, like, really, we are so different. We couldn't be wired more differently, but it's one of those things where I know God gave me literally the perfect partner, because I can tend to be work all the time, and we joke that he is actually my fun coach. Because I have a hard time, like, stopping to relax or do something fun. And so leading into Powerhouse Women year 1, I kind of was very honest. I was like, hey, I need your help. You are free labor, and that happens to fit my budget. So all hands on deck. But I don't remember at what point you came to me and you said, well, can I at least wear a security shirt? That's like a lifelong dream of mine. And it's one of those things, ladies, you choose your battles in marriage. This is when I was like, you know what? Who am I to crush your dreams? And so you did. You wore a security shirt that first year, and everyone came over, and everyone who didn't know that you were actually my husband and not our security guard came over and, like, whispered to me, like, hey, did you know your security guard is drinking mimosas? So it kind of became this running joke, and now I think it'll always be the standing thing. But he's actually more of a lover than a fighter. He neutralizes tense situations with a bear hug.
That's actually true.
Another story for another day. But I actually think it's important to circle back to what you said, in that I really do want people to know anything I have accomplished, or on the surface that it's been like my accomplishment, it really has been ours. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to share a little bit in the past about how, I mean, a lot of what I've been able to do has been because a lot of times, I mean, not only do you emotionally support me and, like, cheer me on, fill me with belief, but there's been a lot of times in this journey that you've financially supported us while I was getting things off the ground, and to some extent even still are, as this is growing and it's actually becoming what it can be. So not every woman is in that position where they have a significant other that is maybe, in a job, more traditional sense, where they have that steady income coming in. But it's also a cool dynamic too, because you are working full time. You still work in sales, not flooring. We've moved on from that world, but you have really been that steady, calm energy in our life and in our household that has allowed me to dream really big. And also, I mean, we'll get into some of these questions, but obviously that just changes the dynamic too, of allowing me to really, really go after these bigger goals, knowing that, I think if we were like a dual entrepreneur household, that's a little bit more risky,
right,
if you will. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's just dive into the questions, shall we?
Dive right in.
Because I think that I posted this on our social media yesterday, and you guys had some great questions. I think we'll see how many of these we get through. We might have to bring Elliot back for a part 2. But this was actually my question. This is the only question that I came prepared with. And I think it's kind of a cool one because I'm sure a lot of men wonder what the hell happens in the room at Powerhouse Women, like the actual event. And since year 1, you've been one of maybe a handful of men who are, in the room and really get to stand at the back and just really observe what that day is like. So what is the Powerhouse Women event like from your perspective?
That's a really good question.
I would love to know.
So, it's beautiful. It's and it's a lot, and it's a little bit hard to answer because I'm part of the setup. So I'm part of, like, the chaos of getting it all ready.
That's true.
But once I'm in the room and I'm, like, listening to the conversation, it's It's incredible, and I think there's so much to be learned. I get a lot from it. I think men also struggle with a lot of the same issues that women do, and whether we may have a tough outside and a tough facade, but internally there's a lot of doubts and there's a lot of struggles, especially with thinking big and can I do this? Am I good enough to do this? Do I have the tools to do this? Do I have the resources to do this? Do I have the will to go through? I know there's going to be walls in anything. If I'm dreaming big and I'm going for something big, there's going to be walls. And men, I think, try to do it lone wolf style. And I'm kind of wired like that, where I just want to get it done myself. I don't want to have to rely on other people. And I didn't realize that women struggled with that so much as well. I thought women were more collaborative by nature, but I don't think that's actually the case. I think we're both very similar in the fact that it's hard to ask for help no matter who you are. So
yeah,
I got a lot out of that, and I get a lot out of the tagline, "We're not meant to do this alone." So that's something that I learned, and it's something that I'm trying to implement, of surrounding myself with my powerhouse women / men in my life, and having people that I can lean on and go to when I need help.
Your wolf pack.
My wolf pack, if you will.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Thank you. I've actually never heard you share that before, but I think it's
let's
true.
say handsome next time, but yeah, that was.
You are handsome, and that was beautiful what you said.
Cool.
So this is a great question that I know we have a lot to share on, because I tend to be the one who wants to spend and invest in things and maybe take some of those bigger financial risks. But Nancy asked on Instagram, how have you guys managed vision, finances, and being on the same page with your budget? So I think this kind of could go two ways. Obviously, like just our household budget in general. But
Right.
I think it would be more valuable, because I've had this question asked before too, where maybe a spouse is supportive in what they say and they're 100% behind you, and then the person wants to go and make a bigger financial investment in a personal development course, in coaching, or for us, this was last year, I came to you and I said, hey, I want to join this business mastermind.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
and
fun.
It was more than, I think the investment was more than my car. I mean, it was like a substantial investment. Mm-hmm. And I remember, of course, being a little bit afraid to come to you and really propose that. But ultimately, we did come to a place where I did make the investment, where I do think
We made the
was it?
investment.
I was like, was that a joint decision? I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't going to do it if you were a hard no, but it actually did take some serious conversations to get to that point.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah.
It's never easy, especially for me. Like, it's never easy throwing cold hard cash down in that amount, and I'm your biggest fan. So the correct answer internally is what should have come out originally. Rewind is, babe, I love you and I believe in you, and I will invest any amount of money into your future. That did not come out.
The real answer.
That did not actually come out. I was scared, just to be vulnerable and like, yeah, that's a lot of money, and I do believe in you, and I have no issue investing in you. So, I think it's just human nature. Like, it's our way of internally, we want to protect ourselves. I want to protect our family. I want to have a nest egg where we can have money for emergencies. And that was, it was some good conversation. Let's put it that way, between us. And we never really fought about it. It was really like we were just discussing it. And my first hesitation to not invest in you, and I think if you're going through this as a family and you getting resistance around that, they're just trying to protect you, and they're trying to protect the family and the household in the future. So, it may come across differently. Maybe the tone, maybe what they're saying is coming across as harsh or not supportive, but it's the best way. What they're saying is the best they know how to support you.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a great point about, so like and again, this doesn't actually matter if it's male or female or what the dynamic of the family is. I think if it's one partner that is maybe dreaming big and has like a specific investment they want to make in whatever that might be, maybe it's even just starting a business and that's going to take some cash, and the other partner is more coming from the place of wanting security for the family, I think first of all to realize like underlying what's actually running the show.
Yeah.
Because I could have just took the it wasn't even resistance, it was more questions like, oh, okay, like that's bigger than we've ever invested. Can you explain to me why? As, well, you don't support me. It would have been easy just to like take it at the surface level versus, hey, I understand that like our security is important to you. And yes, we have, I mean, first and foremost, like this was at a point where we had the cash available. So it wasn't like we were going to leverage this on credit cards. That's kind of like a whole different conversation.
Correct.
So we had the money, but it was more a matter of like, we'd worked hard to build up that level of savings, and now I was wanting to physically remove that from, you know, our hard-earned little nest egg and invest it somewhere else. So I knew going in that I couldn't just say, I want to do this and you need to support me. I had to say, hey, here's my actual, I almost came to you with like a business plan, you know, because I knew it scared me to invest that much. And there was something that I knew I was ready to make that bigger investment. I also knew that it was going to force me to level up, because now not only was I responsible for myself and like that, I took that money seriously, but I wanted to prove to you that I could be trusted with making that kind of an investment. Not like you said to me, like, well, if this doesn't come back to us tenfold, you're dead to me. But I had to come to you with an actual plan, I think is the point.
You did. And even if that plan weren't to work out, I want you to know that when we made that decision and we walked through what it looked like long term, I was completely okay with that money just went away. I felt comfortable in the plan, and sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yep.
So you can invest in a project or a person, and that money may never come back, and you have to be okay with that and know that it was a calculated risk. And there's been things where we've done that same thing and said this isn't a good fit. So you don't always have to say yes, but in our situation with what I saw on the table, like, yeah, it made sense at that point.
And I mean, full disclosure, this time it did actually really work out.
Oh, of course.
But same thing then, you know, you had come and there was like a business you wanted to invest in, and it was like a couple $1,000s. And same thing, like we had the same kind of conversation and had to be okay with, if we never see that money again, it's not going to affect our relationship at all. That was something together we decided we're going to make this investment.
And that's more what I was getting at. If it doesn't work out, like, you really have to both be on the page where there's not going to be resentment. There's not going to be issues moving forward if, you know, God forbid it never works out. So I think that's really important as in a relationship to consider and to be truthful about, if we lost all this, would I still like not hold that against you? Because that's not fair.
Yeah. And just, I think, boils down to being willing to have those honest conversations.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, so the next question, this is a great one too, and I think this almost gets to the original intent when I was thinking about this episode. So Tiffany asked, how do you keep your significant other feeling included in what you're doing?
Yeah, how do you do that?
So I thought I could share a little bit of like how I think about it, and actually do think quite a lot about having you feel included. And then I want to hear from your perspective what actually makes you feel included for the spouses out there, or the significant others. So from the beginning, so here's an interesting dynamic, which we didn't touch on this in the beginning. So we both were in flooring sales. We got married. You moved to Phoenix, took a different job, so we weren't working in the same company. But it was at that time that we started our nutrition business, which we did actually work in that business together. So we had this whole other past life where we really started that entrepreneurial journey together with the intention that I was going to be the one to leave my job and, you know, take that full time. That's like a whole other dynamic, working together in the same business.
Yeah.
But then it evolved to Powerhouse Women, and it was very clear this was something, you know, that I was going to be leading, and, you know, it was this whole other vision that could on the surface look like it was from a place of, well, move out of my way, you know, I am woman, hear me roar, which actually isn't at all the intention behind Powerhouse Women or my intention. But I remember how much I loved that feeling of us being a team in the past business experience, or even if you just like really look at your relationship and how great it feels when you're a team. I wanted to find ways to preserve that and to have it be just still have that feeling of teamwork, even if, you were working your job during the day and I was working on this business and planning the event. So even just little things, like you really are the fun of our household. So, the fun things like having you be the security guard at the event, or, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes where you just help me stay grounded and you help me stay connected to what's really important. But then simple things like we really adopted this tradition, I should say, last summer. We were first year in our new house that had a pool, and almost every day we would take just 15 minutes and we would call it our float time. And I guess it's not that radical of a name for it, because we would get out our little floaties and then we would just debrief from the day. And I would, share ideas with you and, really ask for your input. And I love hearing your input. You have such a brilliant business mind and sales mind that there's a lot of things I do run by you. So for me, I feel like those are the ways that I've made an effort to have you feel included, and just sharing the wins, sharing the not so much wins. But what for you has made you feel included, or what do you think I could do better?
Oh, good question. So I think honestly for me, you said it, and it was effort. It really doesn't matter how you do it. It's your intention behind it. I see that you're trying to bring me into things. You're asking for my input, and that means a lot. That's really where it's at. That's where the juice is. I just love that you are intentionally making me part of your journey, and that's good enough. I love game planning with you. I love taking time to have the conversations. I love running security. I love it. And you're always complimentary of when I do contribute. So to me, that means the most. And thank you for making that effort.
Which I think almost gives us an opportunity to talk about something we have learned the hard way in marriage, is how we edify one another, especially in public, especially in front of other people. Because it's not like we don't get annoyed with each other, or we're very, very different.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I'll just be transparent, I had to learn the hard way, was realizing that when I would, say I would be frustrated and we're out with friends and I voice that frustration either to you in the way that I talk to you, or even making little jabs in conversation with friends. And that, you had so much patience with me and just were, and sometimes it wasn't. It was full on mad, and then I felt terrible. But you were patient with explaining to me that comes across to me like a lack of respect, and that is my biggest, that for you is probably your biggest hot button. And I thank God I learned, and now I'm just very cautious with
don't poke the bear.
Don't poke the bear. Exactly, because it just, of course, I would never, ever intentionally want to do something that is driving us further apart. And a lot of times it was, you're in that moment and you just want to be right and you want to get your point across and make that jab.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel better when it's actually diminishing the view that other people have of your partner, especially in public. And I've so not been perfect with this. And that's probably been my biggest lesson I've learned in our marriage, that then I'm now more intentional about publicly, especially publicly, really acknowledging and edifying you, building you up, because that has made all the difference. And then
it really has.
We still have our fights, but we have them in private, and we deal with things privately and don't air them out to other people.
True. And I had to be transparent about my needs around that, and that's not always easy. And I feel like we do a good job around communicating, what we need from each other. So that's that definitely helps.
Yeah, so little sidebar there. But, okay, going back to the part about, making the effort, asking for your opinion, this is kind of the perfect next question to go to. And
oh, Lord.
Yes, I'm setting you up to this is your moment here, because this does actually happen. I always forget how to pronounce her name. Nuria, my beautiful friend, asked, how can you not take it personally when your partner gives you an opinion about business that you don't like, even if deep down he might be right? Oh boy. This has for sure happened, for sure. And I can tend to be very independent. I don't know if you've noticed, or very strong-willed.
Some may say stubborn. Who knows?
Some may. I don't know who these people are.
I don't know
they
who
may
they
say
are,
it.
but don't you say that.
And sometimes we view things totally differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's been tough. I feel like this is where personal development has really, really helped our marriage, just both of us on our own journey and like looking at our own stuff.
Yeah.
We joke that I am the nerd who loves personal development and I love to do all the courses. And you joke that it's because I'm the one that really needs it. And I probably do.
Yeah.
Because I've actually really struggled with, like my ego and like needing to be right. And I think what perfectly sums it up for me is going back to your point about understanding the view that the other person is coming from when they're giving that advice, when they are maybe challenging you on something, is to actually look at, well, okay, if I were in their shoes, where might I be coming from? Or even, it sounds so crazy, but to just entertain the idea that sometimes maybe, just maybe, there's a small chance I'm not right in every situation.
Yeah.
It's recorded, so you can always now replay this back to me. But I don't know if you have anything to say on that. I mean, because it could easily go both ways. Like, if someone's giving you an opinion that you don't like, even though deep down there might be some truth to it.
Yeah.
How do you not take it personally?
So the word that comes to mind is grace.
Yeah.
And we're human. I'm human. I make tons of mistakes daily, all the time.
Daily, every day.
Hourly, minutely. Yeah, all the time.
Minutely.
The Lee on the minute. But, I mean, you're not perfect either. You make mistakes. Together, we're not perfect. Men aren't perfect. Women aren't perfect. And I think that just to have grace. I mean, I know maybe I'm not communicating in the way that I should, or not. It's coming off not the way that I intended. And you're really good about being, giving me grace and saying, all right, like, is he really meaning to say it like this? Is he intentionally trying to hurt my feelings or squash my dreams?
Crush them like a bug.
Yeah. And it's, we always come to know, like, our intentions are pure. And I know there's things that I get triggered around that you do or say, and I have to come back to, like, there's grace around that. And I think internally we have a filter, and I think this is the number one thing we all can work on, myself definitely included, is something outside of me will happen to me. Someone will say something will happen to me, and how I internally filter that and the energy that comes out of my body after that is what I control. And sometimes things will get through the filter and I will react to something in a way that I should not. But that's a discipline. That's what we need to work on. So, whatever your spouse is saying, doing, thinking, it's most likely in your best interest to them, internally. Yeah. So just take what they're saying, filter it out, and whatever comes out in your energy, I mean, that's really where the juice is.
Yeah, I think that's something we heard, I want to say early on in our marriage, and I don't remember exactly where, that has served us really well. And I hope this is truly the case for your partnership too, that deep down, if you ask yourself, does my partner have the best of intentions? The answer would be yes. If that's not your situation, then of course we're not saying that always will be. But when I think about, if something that is said rubs me the wrong way or triggers something like you mentioned, but I actually go back to, do I believe that deep down his heart is like not to hurt me, not to hurt my feelings? And I'm like, well, of course, yes. Then it can actually help me step back and go, well, then what I can almost just address, like, hey, I don't know if you heard, but your tone came across in this way.
I've heard that. I have heard her say that.
And I know that wasn't your intention. Yeah, ironically, this is an actual conversation from this morning. But it's perfect, right? Because it was almost like a reminder. Sometimes we do get in like this love bubble because you actually are like my very favorite person in the world, and we have very few tense disagreements. Like we've worked to the point after over 10 years together, we kind of know each other and know what hot buttons to avoid, etc. But for us, it's more, I think, how things are said. Oh my gosh, I'm hearing my father's voice. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that tends to be, I think, oftentimes what is triggering the other person. So actually to step back and not just be like, well, you're being a jerk, but to say like, hey, I don't know if you heard the tone that came out in, but here's how it came across to me.
Yep.
It almost like takes the tension out of it. Like, anyway, so there's our, for what it's worth, our 2 cents about how to communicate better with your partner. Okay, I have 2 more questions that I want to get to, and these are really good ones. So we'll do our best to fit all of this in. We're not going to get to everyone's questions, but we're going to have to do a part 2 because this was super fun.
Okay.
At least for me.
Yeah.
I hope it was for you. Okay, so Alexiana, I hope I'm saying that correctly, she asked, has he ever felt intimidated by your success? And if so, how did you grow through it? What would you say to that?
That's a good question. So, not really. I mean, I am all for you making money and providing for the family. That's awesome. Retire me. Make as much money as you want. That's great. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with that in a relationship. So I'm not really wired like that. But, I mean, there's so that part doesn't scare me. I think the part that realistically is scary is that you outgrow me. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, one day you wake up and you're like, you know, you're just not really on my level anymore. Yeah. We have to deuce out over here. That would be, you know, that is really the fear. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, it keeps me on my toes. Got to, you know, keep up with the train, the Lindsey train. But I think that, you know, a lot of people could feel that.
Yeah, I think it's such a great question because, again, I don't think it matters which spouse is having like their moment at the time, because the truth is, as much as I think what I am doing right now gets more of like the public recognition, you are a total boss in your job and you're celebrated within like your company, but it's not like that's the stuff that gets posted on social media unless like one of our moms posts it.
True.
Because they are very proud. Be proud of you. But I think deep down it triggers, it's really getting at that deep fear that we all have, which is, am I enough? Will I be abandoned? And what we've done, because I have those same fears for all sorts of reasons, and when we feel them, we actually just voice them and bring them up.
Yeah.
You know, and rather than saying, well, are you ever going to leave me? Or almost coming from like a, I don't know how to voice it.
Not powerful place.
Yeah. Just to be like, hey, I realize that today I'm feeling like a little bit insecure, and here's like the thought that's running through my mind. Yeah. Versus, saying something like, well, you're not including me, you're gonna leave me, I don't know. I'm like not even sure how that would sound if it were angry. But that's something I've never had that in a relationship where I could just truly tell the person like my deep, deep fears and say like, hey, here's what I'm struggling with, and not have it turned around and used as leverage, or not have it minimized like, well, that's stupid. Like, you actually, when I've come to you with different fears and insecurities, you've been like, oh my, like, thank you for telling me that and for explaining how that's occurring for you. So I think we take it seriously when the other person is willing to open up about that. Yeah. And we just talk about it right away rather than letting it fester. Because I tend to like over dramatize things. So even though this question is more posed to you.
Do you have a vivid imagination?
I can't watch scary shows. And even shows that other people don't find scary. Yeah. My imagination will run wild and I'll like feel as though someone's going to break into my house at any moment. Anyway, so, but I think just that, you know, it kind of goes back to open and honest communication. So I love what you said there. Okay, so final question. And I kind of prepped you with some of these, and you had some great things to say about this. And I think it actually is a great opportunity to talk about how, you know, on the surface, Powerhouse women can seem like this, you know, girl power, like women don't need men, which is actually the total opposite of my heart and what I think our place in this whole conversation is. I think it is important to talk about how it's important to have men and women at the table, and how, you know, as a group of women, we can be supporting one another, but it's not an anti-men type of movement or conversation. So Cindy asked, what is Elliot's perspective on the girl gang environment versus something that's more inclusive for everyone? Although my husband is very supportive, he's unsettled about such an exclusive group or movement in general. I think he needs a guy gang, which I love. And I've actually had several wives tell me, like, gosh, is there something like this for men where they can support each other? But what are your initial thoughts on that question?
I think it's a valid concern. I mean, if you were being influenced or going to a group where they were trying to manipulate your thoughts on all of men being toxic, I would not want you part of that group. I wouldn't want you part of any group that's demonizing somebody else, whoever else, race, sex, whatever. Like that's not our mission. That's not our goal. We're always here to build people up. And I love that you're empowering women, but I also love that you respect men and that you know that men have great value and women have great value, and together they can do amazing things. And that's really I think you've done an amazing job of prefacing that. And, you've never put me down for being a man or my shortcomings as a man or, my strength, that's to me, that's a very important question. And it may seem small, but it's actually pretty important.
Yeah, I almost didn't. I don't know that I understood the true heart where this question may be coming from until I read it to you and you gave me that perspective. Because I think for me, I don't even think in terms of male and female, meaning like that this is only for women. There's so many men who read the book, who listen to the podcast, who are part of our lives. And when we were building our first business, it was men and women. We were empowering both men and women around their big dreams and entrepreneurship. And honestly, what's so funny about this whole thing is initially the only reason that the book ended up being Powerhouse Women is because the publisher said you need to get more specific about who you're writing for. And so it put me in this interesting position where right as this whole conversation about women empowerment was starting to evolve, now I remember being actually quite afraid of, are people going to think that I'm, a voice for, that women are better than men, or I don't even know what my fear was, but maybe pigeonhole me into some of the more, I think just the more extreme sides of this whole conversation of women empowerment. But you really reassured me that within this whole conversation, there's actually such a need for the conversation that we want to have, which is about, yes, we want women to fully connect with what it is that they are capable of. And we want them to have thriving relationships. Again, whether that's with a male or a female, we want them to see themselves as a citizen of the world, not just a woman in a man's world. So it's interesting. I don't know if I'm even fully capable of being a voice within that world. I just know where my heart is, and we're going to keep sharing that side of things. So
yeah.
So it was important for me to have you as the first Powerhouse man on the podcast, but we are going to sprinkle a few dudes in here and there in our interviews because, again, I think that we all just have so much to bring to the table. I love hearing male perspectives on things. I think it just really rounds out how much we want to grow and what we can offer people. So we'll continue to do exactly that. So I want to know, I'm so curious to hear what you are taking away from this podcast. As you know, we love to start those conversations in the Facebook community, the Powerhouse Women community on Facebook, linked in the show notes. If you aren't already a member, you just click, answer a couple questions, and join. But I think if I were to I love to give a takeaway or an action item. We're all about getting people into action around here. And mine was that I really encourage everyone to take a moment this week, and whoever your significant other is, or maybe right now if you're flying solo, maybe it's just someone else in your life who truly supports you and is that rock for you. And take a moment just to intentionally show gratitude. That can go such a long way. Even if people are supporting you in the best way they know how, and it maybe isn't the way that you would choose to be supported, just even voicing your gratitude for the way that they show up for you can go a long way. Anything you want to add to that?
I'm just thankful to be on here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm
And
so
I couldn't be
grateful.
more proud of you. So,
Well, thanks. Okay, until next time, you guys. We'll see you soon.